Hello and welcome to the Healed Approach podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Healed, and in this series, in partnership with the Facade Collective, we are going to be focusing on the phenomenal women in construction, highlighting their pivotal roles in an industry where they lead with resilience and innovation. This is a celebration of their achievements and a call to action for true equity in traditionally male-dominated fields. Join us as we uncover the stories of these inspiring women, the challenges they've overcome and the transformative impact they're making. With every story shared, we're constructing a future where everyone has the foundation to build their dreams. Let's embark on this revolutionary journey together. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Healed Approach podcast. Today, my special guest is Cheryl Loak. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine. She's a multi-award winning business owner and founder of TUTS Group, which is a bespoke training provider that works predominantly in construction. Now, Cheryl, we've been connected for quite a while, but this has fallen at quite a nice time because I'm actually coming along a week on Monday. So Cheryl very kindly asked me to come and speak at one of her events on the 30th of September.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I agreed because she's a woman on a mission, a bit like myself. So, Cheryl, I think that's a great place to start. Can you tell us what I'm going to be doing?
So, yeah, this is our third and final event of this year. It's predominantly for women interested to learn more about what it's like working in construction. So it's a Women in Construction event. It's on the 30th of September. Down at our training centre in Corby. It's just a great opportunity for students. Predominantly, we do get a lot of school kids come down, students that are at college, or just women that are considering a career change. For them to come down, meet with us. We've got awarding bodies on site on the day. They're talking about, different routes into work and card schemes and things like that, just to give them that knowledge. But where you come in, and we've got some wonderful, wonderful guest speakers as well on this event, is just to talk about your story. And I do exactly the same because I don't know about you, but I certainly didn't plan a career in construction. And I think, this is a huge, huge passion of mine in the sense of, schools have careers leads now. Back in the day, they didn't have careers leads. And I just feel that if we can educate and inspire and give the careers leads the knowledge that they need, then they can filter. It's a filtering system. They can filter that through to the students. So, yeah, the idea behind it is that you come along, you tell your story, and just try to inspire somebody. And I think the biggest thing is whether there's one female in that room or 40, just having one is enough, because if we can plant the seed in that one lady's brain that construction could be the right career path for her, for me, I've achieved something, because I just think it just goes completely unnoticed. I think more so when I was at school, there was a lot of a push around having to go off to university. It's all about the academics and the trades, and there was a lot of other industries, but we're talking about the trades and construction. They would kind of just forgotten about it. It seemed a bit of a fallback career, wasn't it? I'm rubbish at school, so I'll go into construction. And that's a really bugbear of mine, really big bugbear, because that's not true. You need skill. And I don't know how many times I've spoken to people that come through our door for training to say, you're knocking yourself. Nobody else is doing that, because actually, I've done talks in schools on maths. You need maths in everyday life in construction. If you're using an excavator, you need to be able to understand the depths that you're digging and stuff like that. So that's where this event really comes in, because we're actually applying what they're doing at school at the minute to how it can transition and assist them into a career in construction. And just having the exposure to how successful women are being in construction, all the different careers, roles that are available as well. Everyone heard of painters, decorators, plumbers and electricians, but when you start really delving into the different roles that are available and what skill sets are well aligned to those job roles, that's where you see a little bit of a light bulb moment with some of the students.
Yeah. I think that what's super important to do with the young people is for them to align with a purpose, see how construction can align with a purpose for them. Because I do think that, like you say, it's just, it's there is still so much stigma around it. Just
Yeah.
as it was though when you were at school, it's the same now. Luckily, because I am doing a bit of work in schools as well. I'm doing some stuff for quite a few schools across the region. Construction Week next week. I'm in talks with schools as well. So there is a little bit of a shift, I think, like you say.
Yeah.
Just touching on as well, like you said, about how we need to be talking to the professionals in the education industry. We need to be, because it's been, I mean, I am an ex-teacher, my background is in teaching. So I am, I understand how it works. Not that anybody doesn't, but, also as well, it also makes me even more passionate about,
Yeah.
making the change from that point. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that when I was in it, I didn't know anything about construction. Again, I was definitely guilty. So I worked a lot with vulnerable children, with ethnic minority children, children that were off the radar, let's say, and that weren't particularly always doing well at school. So I spoke a lot to construction businesses, but it was usually on paths for children that weren't, where school wasn't suiting them. They were misbehaving.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So for me, even I had that kind of, you do as a teacher, you just think, okay, construction is for this kind of student. Well,
Yes.
how wrong was I?
Yeah.
I'd gone to university. I went to a red brick university. I did a degree. My background is very working class. I was the first one to go to university. But still, I was very kind of blinkered in my approach when it came to teaching. And I was very much like, this is the trajectory. And I think that's the case. And it's not that it's anybody's fault. It's not that, we're not saying, anybody's in the wrong or has done anything wrong. It's just getting that awareness out there, I think. And it's educating teachers, it's educating career leads, like you say. It's educating any professionals in the industry so they can change the narrative and the language that's used when we talk about construction, because like you say, it's an amazing industry to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we as a provider, we play our part in trying to bridge the gap anyway. So whilst the event is predominantly aimed at females considering a career in construction, we've had a lot of guys come down from the school as well. And, at the end of the day, it's a bit of a two-way thing. We want the women to come through, but we also just want to bridge the gap because, the statistics are quite scary. And I think, just talking about educating them within the school, we have seen a massive shift, particularly the schools that I'm working with. And unfortunately, I can't speak for everybody else, but the career leads that I speak to are phenomenal, to the point where, if we were to put another event on and something a little bit different and I invited them, she would be, a lot of them would be all for it, because I think, like I say, there's been that shift about not having to just go to university. University does suit a lot of people. If you know exactly what the role is that you want to achieve and you have to go through that route, then that's fine. But there's a lot of students that just don't have that idea. They don't know what they want. They're still very young. Let's face it, they're still very, very young. So I think it is just planting that seed. I would absolutely love to start getting into primary schools, because I think
important.
I think they statistically say, like, from about 7, if the seed's not been sowed, it's not even on radar. So that's where the problem falls. I mean, I've got 2 young boys. My youngest is 5 and my eldest is 8. And, coming down to mummy's work, they've been able to operate the machinery and things like that. And they love it. But I just try to say to them, like, you're really lucky that you get those opportunities, because some people never sit on a piece of heavy plant machinery. They could operate them by the age of like 3-4 years old. So I want other kids to have that as well, because I think if they can see the excitement behind it and actually understand the career prospects as well, that one thing can lead to another and to another, and it's stepping stones, right? It doesn't just mean that you come in one role and you stay in that. There's a huge cycle that you can go through. There's huge career growth opportunities, and it
Yeah.
starts young.
It's career and so much personal growth, I think. I've found that I've had in the industry. And I'm really excited to talk about that next week, to be honest. Because I think there's also this stigma around, if you don't start off in the industry, how can you get into the industry? And I have had I'm not going to lie, I had my own limiting beliefs around that. And there have been challenges for me.
Yeah.
And I've had, people kind of go, oh, so what's your background? What's your experience in construction? What can you add? And I'm like, well, actually, probably a lot more than if I'd been in the industry for 20 years. But this is the whole point. That mindset, is what we need to be changing. And this is the thing, is that you're absolutely right. I think it's even younger. I think it's like 6. If they don't have exposure to the industry before then they're not, it's unlikely that they're going to consider it as a career.
Yeah.
So we do need to be doing stuff early on. And it doesn't have to be, but this is the thing as well, is that, I think the STEM program, I mean, that's out there is great, but I just think that alone is not enough, you know. And I think as well, it's given an experience, like you said, of the other options that there are, and how, because for me, I still don't think, and I don't think a lot of adults, never mind kids, realize just how important, the construction is.
Yeah.
And the impact that it has. And for me, I've always been an ambitious person. I've always been a driven person. I've always wanted to make a difference, right? And I think a lot of, young, intelligent women and men, and I think it's really good you mentioned about men as well, because we do need to change the narrative for men and boys as well. But I think, they probably don't see how they can make a difference through the construction industry because they're not aware of it.
Yeah. It's all down to exposure, isn't it? And understanding.
Yes.
And I think the thing, you said it as well, I have been in the industry 20 years, and my gosh, have I had some stumbling blocks along the way. And even 20 years on, you can still question yourself.
Yeah. No, go on, finish.
Sorry. And I just think for me, it is just, people just need to understand it. I mean, I remember doing a careers fair, and one of the teachers brought over this young lad, and he was very shy. And she said he's thinking about coming into the construction industry. So I was like, right, great. So I sat down with him. I had a little bit of a chat with him. I had my instructor with me on the day. So he was talking about how he started off in the industry and has sort of progressed through to now instructor status. So even for an operator on heavy plant machinery, there is still progression. So he was like, explaining his routes into work and how he's progressed. And the really, really sad thing was, at the end of that session, well, the great thing at this point was, at the end of that session, he was buzzing. You could see he was engaged with me. He was wanting to talk and learn about it. Later on in that careers fair was an opportunity for them to bring their parents back. So he came back with his dad. And that was my challenge. My challenge wasn't him earlier trying to expose him to it. I could already see he was really keen and he wanted to learn more. His dad was the problem, because his dad just had this association that it's a fallback career. My son is not going to be going into that. And that was the challenge, and that was really difficult. And I think, we were just coming out of the pandemic at the time when I started doing those careers fairs. And I remember at that point thinking, right, I'm going to use this time to do a little bit of research into why people think it is still only acceptable to go into construction as a fallback career. And most of the time, the question revolved around the wages, or the answer was around the wages. So when you then actually explain what the earning potential is, what the career prospects are, some of the large organisations you can work for, and the projects that you can work on, because let's face it, they're not going. The infrastructure is here and very much needed. And these workers are in demand. So, the money that people can be earning is phenomenal. Not that money is key, but rightly or wrongly, that's where a lot of the school kids' brains went back to. Well, what can you earn? And then this young lad's dad was exactly the same. I'm not having my son work on a construction site for this reason, and this reason. And I just thought, look at your son. He's beaming with wanting to know more about it and was really asking questions around apprenticeships and things like that. And I'd like to think that, something did sort of plant in his dad's mind, thinking, okay, well, if this is what my son wants, then, we've got to look into it, because you'd want to do that for your kids, right? It's not just about the money. There's an element of, he's got to feel safe and happy and have a passion for it. You've got to have fire in your belly.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing, though, as well. We need people that have got that fire in their belly as well, because that will make a difference when we're talking to kids.
Yeah.
They'll pick up on that.
Yeah.
I think, I love that, because you've touched on something else that I think is super important that I talk about as well, because it's not just about when children, young people, the people that influence them most are their parents, their family, and their teachers.
Yeah.
So it's about helping change the narrative for the teachers and the parents. So I love that. I absolutely love that, Cheryl.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah, and I think I think it's, key. We've had some really good successes from the events as well. So we know that it works. We know that just by getting them in. So in the morning on the event, you guys are going to talk about your story. In the afternoon, we actually get them out with our instructors. So they actually get to sit in the machine, operate it, and just have it at their fingertips. And that speaks volumes. That's the big game changer for a lot of people. And we had a young lady come to us from a school possibly 2 years ago now, 2022. And she would possibly openly admit she just didn't know where her career was going to go. She didn't know what she wanted to do, but she thought construction actually might be something that she needed to consider. So she came to our event and she was absolutely buzzing at the end of it. And I think that's that sense of achievement for me personally, because you just see how they come, what they've learned throughout the day and the knowledge they've absorbed, and then how they are at the end when they leave. She actually then went on to do some work experience, a large organisation down in London. And she's now secured an apprenticeship as a quantity surveyor. So granted, not in heavy plant machinery, but it's still construction, and she's absolutely thriving. And I still, because her careers lead is the lead that I'm talking about, where she's really supportive of what we do. And, I get regular feedback, and it's just lovely. It's lovely to hear it, but we need more of it.
We do need more of it. We absolutely do need more of it. And I talk about this quite a lot, like day to day, and also on the podcast as well, because I think usually what tends to happen is, if we've got a female quantity surveyor on site, or usually it's because they have experienced it through a parent being in the industry or something like that. It's not usually because they've heard about it at school or a careers event. So we do need to be talking about that more, because we are missing out on so much talent. And also as well, we're missing out on people. If someone should be in this industry and they don't even know it's there, they're going to potentially not enjoy a career in the way that they could. And I'll talk about that next week, because I feel like construction's opened up so much for me. And I've had colleagues from my employed role who've messaged me and said, you were so happy that, you found your mission and your purpose. Because, they always knew the potential was there, but I just was, But anyway, I think, this is something that we need to keep talking about. And,
we do.
You're doing amazing work, and, there just needs to be more of it happening. Tell us a little bit about your journey and your story, because, like myself, you never thought you'd end up in construction, right?
No, I didn't. I actually started temping at a well-known health and safety training company that I still speak to now. And I just got the bug. I very, very quickly knew this was the industry I wanted to work in, albeit it was health and safety.
Yeah.
And then I started setting up some sort of satellite centres for plant. And that's where I just thought, this is something different. I'm not coming across any women. There's something different here. Why not? And I think what I noticed when I then did eventually set up TUTS in 2013 was the amount of really positive feedback that I was getting was like, it's not your usual tin can in the middle of a field, you know, in terms of like a tin can container where people were learning from. And I said, but this is the thing. Why should that be acceptable? Just because it's construction, why should working out of just a tin can container in a field be acceptable just because?
Yeah. Because that's the way we've always done it.
I've heard that so many times, just because it's always been done that way. And that's where I started to get that fire in my belly. And it's just like, but it doesn't need to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. So I probably went from one extreme to the other. We've got beautiful modular buildings. We put flower beds out the front. It was a proper, I mean, I probably went a little bit to the other extreme, not to kind of make a point too much, but just thought it's still got to be welcoming. Like, just because construction guys are used to muddy boots and, like I say, canteens that are just messy, I didn't want my training centre to be like that. I wanted them to know that they were safe there, everybody was welcome there, females could feel welcome coming there, and I just wanted to start making that change. So for me, it was about quality. It was about changing what I had control of changing, which was around, like I say, just applying something very different to what the industry was very used to. You know, we've been deemed a flagship centre with awarding bodies just because we just go that little bit further. Small things, air conditioning. Every single room's got air conditioning. Site guys aren't, I mean, possibly more so under certain acts and things like that. They need that now on site. But before, 10, 15 years ago, not many places had that. So I think it was just, like you say, trying to change the narrative around just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean that's how it has to stay. So that's kind of where we got to with TUTS, just trying to break the mold a little bit and do something a little bit different.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And this is what I'm talking about all the time, is that just because that's the way we've always done it doesn't mean to say that's the way that we should be doing it. But this is also why we need to be getting, more people, more diversity, more talent into the industry, so that they can think like this. They can think outside the box,
we bring something different, don't we? Like, it's not saying, and I think that's the thing, I don't want men to think that we're just trying to overtake, because it's not. It's about working, like, let's collaborate. And even on the events and things like that we were saying earlier, that we're all aiming for the same objective, but we need to all come together to make that voice heard. And men need to work with us, and actually something quite harmonious might actually happen,
mean something quite natural and the way it's supposed to be.
Exactly that.
And it's interesting what you just said there, actually, about how, a lot of it's not about us wanting to push bums out of seats, because that's absolutely, because I was reading something the other day, or was I talking to somebody, and they were saying, well, the problem is that men don't want to give up their position so that women can. And it's like, what kind of, at the end of the day, women shouldn't be put in a situation where they're not given the same opportunities anyway. No. And just imagine, right, women are doing a great job despite the barriers, the invisible barriers, the inequality that exists. Give them an environment where they're going to thrive, and imagine, the difference. But it's the same for men as well, because, there is workplaces, particularly construction, they work for very few people, really, to be honest. Women are experiencing invisible barriers. Men don't feel like they can really bring their full selves to work, which is why we've got a mental health crisis. You said there about wanting to create welcoming environments. So tell us about, like, what kind of an impact it's had and the feedback you've had. And obviously you're doing amazing, but please shout about it more.
I think, we get really, really good feedback. So we, even from a provider's perspective, we only work with instructors that have come from site backgrounds themselves. Because, like I say, I really hone in on quality. That was one of the things that I witnessed quite a few years ago, was instructors just saying, I can do that, I can do that. And it's like, you're diluting quality. We've got a really big issue with diluted quality training out on site anyway, and that's still there now. So I think it's, there's a lot of legwork that needs to be done in the industry, and it's Is it at a point of no return? I don't know. There's a lot of work to be done. But I think, like I say, with our trainers, because they come from site background themselves, they're on a level with the candidates that walk through the door. I can't tell you how many candidates come to me or to my centre manager or general manager to say, I mean, we're going on to a different topic now, but
That's
to
fine.
say, I'm dyslexic, but my employer doesn't know, and I really don't want to.
This isn't another topic. This is one and of the same. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm getting, because, neurodiversity, dyslexia,
yeah,
for creating better environments.
yeah. We need to shout about it because we need
Yes.
people to feel, and this is, and he was really going on, bless him, he was really nervous and he kept going on, I don't think I'm going to pass, I need extra help. And I'm just like, it's fine. Like, we are here to help you. And I think, one, his main concern was that it fed back to his employer and then he felt like his job was on the line. That's sad. Really, really sad. But this is, we see this really frequently. So my team of instructors know that we are here to assist them. Now, obviously, from an awarding body perspective, we have certain limitations on timescales and things like that for tests. But when it comes to training and sitting with them and just putting them at ease, that's where I feel we outshine a lot of other competitors out there because we spend quality time with them. And I'm not saying for a second that others don't, because I'm not exposed to that, but I know that we're proud of what we do. And so we do want everyone to feel welcome. We do want people to feel safe. And I think by creating that environment, they're coming to us and they're opening up on stuff like this. All it's going to do is allow us to help them. We then help them. And okay, so if you can't learn, because we all learn differently, if that's not your right learning style, how can we help you? So I think it's just trying to not make a big deal about it. I understand the concerns around it, but it doesn't make you any less of an operator than somebody that doesn't have those struggles. It just means we might have to put in a little bit of extra work on the stuff that you do struggle with. But it's just sad, and we see it so frequently.
It is really sad. But I think what you're doing, in terms of trying to promote this in schools, trying to kind of change the narrative around construction, I think that is how we're going to, that's one element of how we're going to change things. I think I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to do kind of that, to support that and also do the work within the workplaces so that people need to stop thinking they need to fix themselves and hide themselves. If you feel like you can't be, you can't tell someone you've got dyslexia, you can't tell someone you're experiencing abuse, you can't tell someone you've got an eating disorder, then, I'm not saying that you don't have to share that information if you don't want to, but if you feel like you can't, because this is the other thing, it's like you can't tell everyone they need to, and I'm like, no, I'm not. But I know there are plenty of people that would quite honestly appreciate support from their employers with certain things, but they're afraid to open up about it.
Yeah.
And we need to take that away. And that's not going to happen if we don't, accept and acknowledge the inequality. And I'm not just talking about gender, I'm talking about inequality across the board is preventing people from it. That people are trying to like fit into the mold and fix themselves. And we need to look at ways that we can move forward on that 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, there's a lot of work to be done. But I think as a provider, we can try and do what we do. We'll continue to do all of our STEM work and just exposing it and just make people feel welcomed at the end of the day. And I think the more positive feedback that we get on that, it's a filtering system again. Like we started off saying about how it's a filter system in the school, it's a filter system for our candidates that attend the training as well. If they can filter out that, we are there to support them, it's all positive. It is all positive at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great place to start wrapping it up. But I also would like to just say, like you say there's a lot of work to be done. But I also feel like, there are so many people. We've got more people out there that want to do this and want to see change. I think the biggest barriers are people not necessarily understanding how to do it. But there's people like you out there. There's people like me out there. There are so many amazing people out there that can guide you and show you how to do it.
Yeah.
It's just that we need to start opening ourselves up to that and acknowledging that it's happening.
But there's, and there's pressures as well, isn't there? So I think from an employer's perspective, there's a lot of pressures to get projects done. Because like I say, the industry is kind of on its knees a little bit. So it is about all coming together and working together, because it can be achieved. We just need the right people in the right place to make it happen.
Absolutely. No, I think, you're doing great work anyway. But, it's been amazing for me today to learn more about what you are doing, your kind of passion, enthusiasm for it. And can you let people know then where it is that they can find you and learn more about what you're doing, and anybody who might be interested locally to attend any of the events?
We are on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. So it's tutsuk.co.uk, or you just do TUTS training, so TUTS training, or myself, Cheryl Loak, and you'll find us and the website, and you can make contact there.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. Really excited to be meeting you in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a geographical nightmare. Everything that's going on. But when you asked me, I thought there's no way I can't do this.
Brilliant. And if we get time, we will get you on the machines.
I was going to say I'm gutted because I can't stick around for the machinery tour. But, next time, definitely. I don't think Corby's too far. Actually, it's not as far as I thought it was. So,
no,
thank
Love
you.
It.
So thank you, everybody who has been listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you do share it with your audiences, that you leave us a 5-star review. Make sure as well that you do go and check out what Cheryl is doing. It sounds like, well, I know she's doing some amazing stuff. And so I think she's going to benefit so many businesses out there, as well as the education industry. And please make sure that I see you here next time for another episode of the Healed Approach podcast. Thanks again, Cheryl.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us in celebrating the trailblazing women in construction. Today's discussions have not only illuminated the remarkable contributions of our guests, but have also reinforced our commitment to fostering a workspace that honours diversity, champions equality and nurtures innovation. Through our collaborative efforts with the Facade Collective, we are reminded that every contribution in construction is a step towards a more inclusive and equitable industry. Let the stories of these courageous women inspire us all to continue building a future where gender is no longer a barrier to success, but a testament to our collective strength and diversity. Until next time, let's keep pushing boundaries, breaking barriers, and leading the charge towards a more equitable and inclusive world.